Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming today. I'm glad to see you. My name is Rachelle Swan, and I manage the iCAN lab at Purdue University in the clinical psychology department. And then the principal investigator is Sarah Carlunas. This presentation is based on my experience with registering our project's Twilio phone numbers to meet new federal compliance requirements designed to regulate spam. My experience comes from over 30 email exchanges and one Zoom call with support staff from Twilio, spanning 155 days at this point. And I say at this point because I still have a very important question that has been unanswered. And I'll tell you more about that. So my objectives are to introduce you to Twilio so you become familiar with it, discuss how you can use it in your REDCap project, and explain these new regulation requirements. And then finally, I'm going to help you navigate the registration process for your own REDCap project. So Twilio is a customer engagement platform that connects organizations with their clients over text, phone, and email communication channels. So when you get a message from your doctor reminding you that you have an appointment, they are using a platform similar to Twilio. Thankfully, REDCap has integrated Twilio into our projects as a third-party service for research purposes. I also wanted to tell you that this communication is one way, so we can text participants, but they cannot text us back. So how can you use it as a researcher? You can send messages to your participants immediately, or you can schedule a message to be sent at a later time. One of our data collection methods captures in real time a parent's observations of their child's behavior. And we do this by sending phone surveys to parents 3 times a day for 14 days. And it's very important that parents can complete the survey on a smartphone because we don't want them to wait until they get home to fill out the survey on a computer. We want them to complete the survey as soon as they get it and wherever they get it. So we use Twilio to text survey links to parents. And we also use it to schedule, appointments with families to come to our lab. And so we use it to remind participants of those appointments. This has freed up our staff time to do other administrative tasks. And we use the ASI's, our automated surveys to do this, as well as alerts and notifications. And if we have time, I'd love to hear about how you in your REDCap project. So I thought it would be helpful to show you an example of what our text messages look like. The first one on the top is a survey prompt. You can see that the survey link is piped in, so the participant just sees the survey link to click on, and it takes them to the first instrument in the survey. The bottom message shows what we send participants to remind them of an appointment. You can see that we pipe in the date time field. So in our text, I specifically mentioned the time below is using military time, because unfortunately we cannot translate into standard time using REDCap. Another cool feature is that the email address and the phone number are actually links. So if the participant just touches one of those links, it'll automatically populate their phone app or their texting app with our contact information, making it easy for them to contact us. For you to best understand the cost of registering your Twilio number or not registering it, I thought it would be helpful to understand how Twilio charges per text message. So Twilio charges by the message segment, which is based on a character count. One segment is 160 characters. Segments have 2 associated charges. The biggest charge is what Twilio is charging you to send the message. The smaller charge is what the carrier company is charging you to deliver your message to its customer. Both of these costs together amount to about 1 cent per segment. So to give you an example of segment length, in the previous slide, the survey link message, the shorter one was 1 segment's worth. The appointment reminder message on the bottom was 2 segments worth. And Twilio actually has a segment calculator you can use. So you can just plop in your message and it counts how many segments it's worth. And this helped me cut our reminder message down from 3 segments to 2 segments. What are the other associated costs with Twilio? Prior to 2023, the only other cost was renting the phone number, and that was a flat rate of $1.15 per number per month. However, after 2023 or towards the end of 2022, all US businesses sending SMS text messages are required to register their brand and message. This added some fees. 2 of them are only charged once when you register, and the third is an extra monthly cost. This monthly cost can either be $10 or $1.50, and I will soon explain why there are 2 possible monthly costs. So what is this new requirement? The name they came up for this new requirement is rather intimidating, so I thought I would break it down for you. The first part is A2P, and it just stands for application to person messaging. The second part refers to a 10-digit standard phone number that you use with the 3-digit area code in front. Again, it was designed to regulate the hundreds of spam texts and calls and emails we get every day. If you happen to send more than 6,000 segments a day, it also serves other functions for you by establishing trust. So they know that you're not somebody who's going to be spamming somebody with that many messages. But that's not us, and I'm assuming it's not you. In fact, our lab sends about 700 segments a month. So what does this mean for you? You basically have to jump through some registration hoops and pay more money. Or Twilio is threatening to filter or block your messages and perhaps to not support your messaging needs in the future. The one threat they have delivered on, however, is making you pay higher fees. So if you are unregistered now, you are already paying higher carrier fees. And if you remember, each carrier has a fee they charge to deliver your message to their customers. These are fractions of a cent. For purposes of explaining, I'm going to use AT&T as the carrier. Right now, if your Twilio number is unregistered at AT&T, if it's unregistered, AT&T is charging you twice as much to send your message. But because this cost is so low, it only amounts to about a 17% increase in your cost per segment. But these fees will increase this summer. In fact, A&T is has one of the highest increases, and it's actually going to go from 0.002 cents per segment to 1 cent per segment. This increases the total cost per segment about 45%. Now that you understand what this new requirement is, I will show you how to meet it. There are 4 registration steps. First, you need to create your business profile, and you have to think of your business as the larger institution in which you work. It's not at the lab level. It's not at the grant level if you have grant-funded research. So for our REDCap project, the business is the trustees of Purdue University, its formal tax name. It takes about 72 hours to validate your institution's identity. And now Twilio, I think because so many people are signing up, they hired out a third party to do this vetting process. And that's where that $15 one-time fee comes in that I had listed earlier. Second, you need to register your brand. Twilio wants to know what type of company you are and how many messages you will be sending per day. Together, this information determines your brand. It takes a few hours for your brand to get approved once you register it. And then third, Twilio wants to know what you will be using your messages for. How you use your messages determines your campaign type. And of course, they do not list any message sending reasons related to research. Finally, you need to connect your Twilio numbers to your campaign. So I just thought I'd give you some tips before you sit down to register in your Twilio account, because that's what you do. You log in and it's on the Twilio console under messaging. You should have your institution's Form W-9 to know how to state the formal tax name and associated address, as well as the tax ID number and classification. You also should have a description of how you'll be using your messages, and they want specific examples of what your messages will look like. And probably the most difficult registration requirement is knowing your types. I will now go through each registration type to help you understand what type of company, brand, and campaign are. Here I've listed these type categories with their possible choices in the registration process. So for company types, first you need to decide on your company type. I've inserted an image of Purdue's W-9 form. You will need to provide your institution's name, address, and tax ID number, just as they are written on this form. Twilio has 4 company types you can choose from. You might be inclined to select government, like I was, because when you look at the tax classification, Purdue is other government state. And we also know Purdue is a land-grant university. So government kind of makes sense. But it turns out, however, that Twilio considers Purdue to be a nonprofit company for its registration requirements. It took several rounds of emails to arrive at this conclusion. So hopefully I can save you some of that time if this is also your institution's classification. As for brand types, this one is easy. If you send less than 6,000 message segments per day, you are a low volume standard brand. If you send more than 6,000 segments per day, you are considered a standard brand. So thankfully, we are a low volume standard, and we just have to pay a $1 registration fee for each phone number we tie to a campaign. Okay, now I'm going to get into campaign types, and this can get a little tricky. The first thing you need to determine is your campaign use. I bet everybody in this room will have a standard campaign use, because the special use case that's an option is only applicable to charity, politics, or emergency alerts such as Amber or weather alerts. As for selecting your campaign use type, there are 2 types out of 11 that Twilio offers that can lend itself to research. So I'm going to go over both of these types. The first is higher education. I actually am posting Twilio's language for the type descriptions for these 2 types here. So you can see that the higher education type just says a message is coming from a post-secondary education institution. The mixed use type basically says it can cover any type of use, such as customer care and delivery notifications. In my lengthy discussions with Twilio support staff, I did get confirmation that a research study can qualify for a mixed use campaign. However, there is some concerning language in their description. They do threaten that there will be a lower throughput message sending speed, and that doesn't really matter for us because we're not sending that many messages. But they say there could be a higher cost associated per message. So I thought it was pretty concerning to have this ambiguous higher cost per message threat. I have prompted Twilio to clarify what this higher fee per message could look like. And I've asked for this information for 4 times over the last 2 months. And it turns out no one can tell me. So until I get clarification on what the cost might be, we are playing it safe, and we're registering as the $10 per month higher education campaign. I was going to test the mixed use case for this conference so I could tell you how it turned out. But here's another thing that they cannot tell me how to do. they warned me that if I deleted the higher education case that I was using before I connected my number to a new case, that I could have a lapse in service. However, when I tried to do that, it doesn't allow you to apply the same phone number to more than 2 campaigns at a time. So I still have not had an answer to how to do that as well. Finally, I thought I would give you a practical idea of how registration has changed our monthly Twilio costs. So before the registration, we were spending about $8.55 for 700 segments. And basically, it just added the $10 for the campaign fee for a monthly charge using the same amount of segments. I'm hoping to get this reduced down to the mixed use case cost once I find out exactly what it means by the threat of having a higher cost per message. So in summary, I'd like to share the good and the bad and the ugly. The good is you can text your research participants. The bad is that you need to register and pay more money. The ugly is that Twilio cannot tell you how much more. But I'm going to actually end on a good note. There's an alternative to Twilio coming to REDCap soon, and perhaps maybe even in the next update. It's called Mozio, and I cannot tell which Mozio features will be adopted by IU, REDCap, nor can I tell the cost to us as REDCap users, but I have heard that they are better at customer service. Any questions? I have some questions for you. Sure.
Yeah, I guess one thing that was confusing me is as an organization registered as Purdue, but what if another group wanted to use Twilio at Purdue? Would they register Purdue a second time, or your registration, or how does that work?
Yeah, I'm assuming that you could register. The question is, if you register your brand as Purdue, can someone else on your campus also register their brand as Purdue? Is that correct? Okay. My understanding, yeah, it's based on your particular Twilio account. So I'm assuming that if you have a different Twilio account, can register for the same brand. And once you register your brand, you only have to do it once. That's the only thing you have to do once. If you want to connect more than one phone number, you have to register each phone number to its own campaign use and campaign use type. So how many of you are using Twilio SMS right now? Okay. What are your experiences with their customer service?
I didn't have to do a lot of interfacing with customer service. Our project was pretty simple. And we were trying to reach clinicians with a survey. So having to sit at a computer, fill out that survey was not feasible. And there are other responsibilities. So using Twilio to text them the survey was very useful. It increased our response rate a lot.
So are you registered? Okay. Well, that's nice.
So Raven Hill, she's online right now. She says that customer service is non-existent.
They do a big show where if you send in a ticket, they respond right away and say, we're going to put this to the right person. And then you could have days, weeks go by.
I was going to say, from a CTSI perspective, we try to solve this at the CTSI level and just have it for REDCap, like one kind of, we couldn't get customer service like to respond. They kept giving us to different people. So finally we were like, it's going to have to be at the project level because we can't seem to, maybe with Mozio better, but from a Twilio perspective, we couldn't seem to solve it. Even like when Jim was talking at the institutional level, like having the institution have it set up. So
Yeah, I think Mosio is designed for clinical research, so they will definitely understand our needs better than Twilio. Yeah.
So one more question, is there any setting where you can say like, after so much money or messages, turn the service off in case you make some error, automatic error in your survey where you end up sending, tens of thousands of texts?
It actually happened to me. Okay. Is there a way to stop a mistake in Twilio? Is that basically
To set a cutoff.
to set a cutoff if so many messages go out? Yeah. First of all, it acts like a bank account. So you put so much money in, and once it's used, it just pulls from that. And then you get a notice when you're running low, so you can load more money. So that's one way I guess it could stop. But there was no way when I had something misprogrammed in alerts and notifications to text participants. It went ahead and sent it out to everybody, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. In case you're wondering what that mistake was, I accidentally set a new reminder for an appointment in a study that had already collected data, and we had people who had already done the event that I was trying to remind people for. So I didn't put some stop logic in there to not send people who've already completed the study a reminder to come for that appointment, even though it was in the past. I just assumed REDCap would know, because I'm having it scheduled before a certain date, that it wouldn't schedule it for a date that's already passed.
The phone number that's assigned to Twilio, can you assign a caller ID so that it's coming from a trusted source? Is that for potential research participants?
Yeah. The question is if you can assign a caller ID to a Twilio number, so a research participant won't be skeptical of a number that shows up on their phone. And I do not know the answer to that, but what I do is I let participants to know what number is going to be contacting them. And the Twilio numbers, you can pick area codes from all over the country. Mhm. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Amanda.